Good morning. Hey, Chris. When I hit go live, it told me that this video could not be recorded because I'm out of storage. Does that mean it's not going to be posted? Anyway, I don't know what that means. I think it means storage in StreamYard. Anyway, sorry I had to talk to Chris for a second. Good morning, guys. I'm going to put on my fancy watch. I am loving my new watch band. It's from Brighton. I just love it. Okay, I was trying to follow what y'all were talking about. What is something happened to somebody? Hang on. Cheryl, you're under a tornado? Like a tornado happened last night? What happened? Y'all, it rains every single day here. It's raining this morning. Hang on, I'm struggling with my watch. Oh, there it goes. Oh, you had a tornado Friday? Tornado scared bejesus out of me. Y'all bear with me. I'm struggling to put this watch on and then we'll get started. Okay. It's like I want to do my hair, but it rains every day. And when you have naturally curly hair and it rains, my hair is literally this short when it rains. So I end up just sticking it up because there's no sense, because I'm going to walk outside and it's pouring down rain and I'm over it. So like I end up just sticking it up because it's just a mess. I will tell you guys that I did something. I ordered a halo. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? A halo is a hair extension that like you take in and out every single day. I told my hairdresser, I said, look, I am over my hair. It is like this big. I am over it. I cannot deal with my hair being this big. And I said, it's short. I can't stand it. I just don't like it. And she said, Judy, I think you should try a halo. And a halo is one of those extensions that you put right here, like it goes right here and then you pull it out. And I bought I hope that the color matches. The hard part about having red hair is trying to find extensions that match my color. Cause like as I get older, my red hair gets lighter and lighter and lighter. So I get my halo on Wednesday. They said if I hated it, I could take it back. It was kind of expensive. Extensions are not the cheapest. Like when you buy real hair, they're not the cheapest. But the difference in a halo is a halo lasts you pretty much forever. And you take it in and out. So if it's raining outside, I can just stick my hair up and take my halo out. I need a halo in my life, y'all. I need a halo. Maybe it'll make me feel better. I don't know, but I get it on Wednesday. So probably next Monday, I'll show y'all what it's like and how to install it and stuff like that. Okay, let's get this party started. I've talked about my childhood before, but I have had a lot of trauma in my life from my childhood. It started, the earliest that I can remember is it started with my parents' divorce. I was in first grade when my parents got a divorce. And I've said this before, but the way my brother and I are 12 months apart. And then my younger brother is 5 years from us. So I pretty much grew up with my oldest brother. Like we went through school together because He ended up getting put back in 1st grade. So from, I guess, 3rd grade on, 2nd grade, my brother and I were in the same grade. So we graduated together and stuff like that. And so, I remember my father, the only memory I have of my parents being married, because I was in 1st grade when they got a divorce, is I do remember my brother and I having coloring contest, and we used to color, and we would leave it because my dad was in sales, so he worked late, and I remember leaving the coloring picture on the counter for my dad to say who won the coloring contest. Like, I do remember that, but that's all I remember about my parents being divorced. I was, what, 5, 6 years old, so I don't really remember my parents really being married. I don't remember what my life was like when they were married. Um, when they got a divorce, I remember my dad getting us in the car with our bicycles, and I remember where I was sitting at the ballpark. I was sitting in my dad's car. I can even tell you the ball field we were riding our bicycles in when my dad told us he was no longer going to live with us. He didn't say divorce. He just said dad's going to move to another house, and I'm no longer going to be living with y'all. And I remember my brother and I were like, "What?" You know, I remember it vividly, and I was like 6 years old, and it was obviously very devastating to me because I do remember that memory. And then when my dad left my dad started on a drinking binge. Did not go good. My dad was, living on his own in an apartment, drinking a lot. I believe that he was more of an alcoholic than drugs, but I do remember, like, my dad being in rehab a lot. Um, I remember my mother crying all the time because my dad was just I just it just as a child, I remember all that trauma, and Imma tell you, when you're a child and your parents are in rehab, it's scary. It's scary. 'Cause there's a lot of things as a child, you find yourself blaming yourself for the way your parents act. "This is my fault. It's because me and Greg fight all the time. If me and Greg didn't fight, dad wouldn't drink." I just remember all that crap. And then my dad ended up getting remarried within a year of divorcing my mom. I will tell you that my dad married a very stable woman. She has been my stepmother my entire life. Um, so I guess I was probably 7 and I'm now 54, and she's always been in my life. So my stepmother is a very good person. She was one who took my dad to church. She was my stepmother is very how do I put her? Like, her house is always perfect. Her house is clean. Like, her Tupperware is organized in a certain drawer. My stepmother cooked every meal. Like, she took my dad to church every Sunday. Like, she was a very good, positive influence in my dad's life. And I remember when they got married, I remember my stepmother also sews. She can make anything. She can make beautiful curtains. And I remember her taking me to buy a dress for the wedding. And I remember I, she was trying to find a sash for me to wear around my waist that matched, like, the what they were wearing in the wedding and stuff. I remember her taking me there, and I remember her sewing the sash to make it the perfect size for my dress. I remember all that. And the day my stepmom and dad got married, they had a wedding, okay? I remember my mom just sitting there bawling her eyes out as my brothers were putting on their suits and I was putting on my dress. My mother was sitting there literally bawling her eyes out. And I was like, I'm not going. I'm not going. And I don't remember if mom was trying to talk me into it. I don't remember, but I just remember going, I'm not leaving my mother. Like, my brothers can leave, and my brothers went to the wedding, but me, I'm not going. So I remember I was the only child because my stepmother has a son. She actually has 2 sons, long story, but, all the boys went to the wedding and not Judy. I stayed home with my mother, and I just remember not understanding why mom was sitting there bawling her eyes out, like, what is mom upset about? Like, I just remember being confused. And shortly after my dad got married, my mother, how do I put my mom? My mother had these best friends, okay? And my mother was raised by Mother Mary, okay? My grandmother, very, very, very religious, like super religious, okay? Um, my mother started becoming a partier, okay? And what she would do is on the weekends, my brothers and I, she had this one best friend, and her best friend had 3 kids, and my mother had 3 kids. And so I remember, like, on the weekends, we stayed with the babysitter, and we would either the babysitter would either come to our house and those 3 kids would come to our house. So there were 6 kids that were being um watched by a babysitter, and we would either go to my house or we would go to my mom's friend's house. And us 6 kids every weekend, most weekends, we would get together and we would have a babysitter. And our parents would go out partying. But, like, we didn't really understand that, right? We just knew that mom was getting dressed up and we had a babysitter, and it was kind of like fun to us because we got together most weekends. Us 6 kids would get together, and we would have a babysitter, and I don't know, mom would give us money for pizza and stuff like that. So it never really was something that we didn't look forward to because we got together with these 3 kids. Well, I remember vividly one time, um we were over at my mom's friend's house, and they hired a babysitter. And I remember that I don't it wasn't long, I don't remember, a couple of hours, let's just say. Us 6 kids were all together, and the babysitter left us. And us 6 kids, young kids, were left with no babysitter. Well, back then they didn't have cell phones, right? So I couldn't call my mom and say, "Hey, the babysitter's done ditched us." None of us knew what to do. So I remember my brother called my dad on the telephone. He had a home phone, and he said, "Hey, Dad, the babysitter's left us." And my dad came to pick up Greg and I and Bobby. Yeah. And dad took us to my grandparents' house, which was his dad, and he went searching for my mom. And us kids were left with my grandparents. We were asleep. We were all asleep. All I remember, I was sleeping in my grandmother's room, And all I remember is waking up to my parents screaming and hollering at each other in my grandparents' house. And I remember my oldest brother was like this with his arms out. Mom was pulling one arm and dad was pulling the other arm. And they were fighting because my dad was mad that my mom was out partying and the babysitter left us. And my dad was screaming and hollering at my mom in my grandparents' house. I woke up to trauma from my parents fighting, both drinking at my grandparents' house. It was a total train wreck. I don't remember what happened after that, but I have a lot of trauma that I've had to deal with, a lot of pain that I've had to deal with. Well, recently, the girl that I told you my mom had a best friend that had 3 kids. Well, recently, just this past week, one of the daughters that I was friends with, she messaged me, and she lives an hour away from me. Her husband is in the army, and she's been stationed, I don't know where, but we've lost contact. I don't know the last time I saw her. It was probably when I was a kid. But I remember, like, we were in cheerleading together. We were with each other every weekend because our parents partied together. Like, she was like a really close friend of mine. Okay. And so we parted our ways after school and stuff because she ran off and got married. I ran off and got married, and we parted our ways. Well, she moved to Huntsville. Huntsville's about an hour away from me. I'm going to say a couple years ago. And Sneeze Farmhouse has, like, it's funny how people watch me and watch my content that I have not seen in like since high school. I mean, I've had like this guy recently who's like, Judy, I want to donate to your farm. I haven't seen this guy since high school. And he was actually younger than me. I wasn't close to him. And he's like, and I'm like, wow, it's funny how Sneeze Farmhouse people watch me that I went to high school with that I don't haven't seen in 100,000 years, you know? But her and her mother follow me on Facebook. So um she messaged me and she said, I have you on my mind and I just wanted to check on you. And I was like, wow, that's so funny that she messaged me. And I said, let's go to lunch. And she said, let's go to lunch. She's like, I said, I can drive to Huntsville. I said, let's go to lunch. So she ended up calling me instead of texting me. She called me on the phone and she was like, hey, where do you want to go to lunch? And so we planned for us to go to lunch at the end of the month. And I said, I really, really need to talk to you. I said, I really need to talk about our childhood and how we got to where we are today. And in my head, I was thinking, like, I've been through a lot of trauma. And there's times when I'm triggered by the trauma of what I went through uh, in my life with my parents not being well. Let's just say that. Like when you are a kid of an alcoholic, you have a lot of trauma, and I just felt like I felt like I needed to talk to someone that literally gets me. Like, she knows my mom because her and I were the ones that were together during the babysitter, and she understands when the babysitters left us, and like her mom was a partier too. And so I said, I really want to sit down and talk about what we went through as kids. I just feel like I need to like, because I don't have to say, it's not like a friend that I have to go, okay, let me explain. Okay, when I was young, I don't have to say, she already knows. You know what I mean? She knows my mom, she knows my dad, she knows my brothers. So I don't have to sit here like when I talk about the trauma of my younger brother being in jail. I don't have to say, okay, see, I have this younger brother that's 5 years younger than me, and he got on meth and he's in jail, been in jail. I don't have to say that. All I have to say is, hey, Bobby's in jail. And she's going to go, what? Yeah. So when she messaged me to go to lunch, I felt like, oh, thank God I can meet someone for lunch and I don't have to explain the trauma that I have been in, like she already knows. Now, let me explain her a little bit. And I'm speaking, I may be speaking and I don't know what I'm talking about, but we both did not grow up in church, right? I'm fixing to try my new lipstick. This is going to be a different color. We both did not grow up in church by our parents. We grew up in I can't. We grew up in I grew up in church by my grandmother. Like my grandmother's we took me to church and taught me about Jesus and stuff like that. So she I don't know much about her. I just know what I see on social media. You know how we are. Is this going to turn my lips blue? You're supposed to let that dry and then you put another coat on. So I only know about her from social media. So I do know that I don't remember how many kids she has, but it's like 12 or 15 kids. It's somewhere around that. She has a ton of kids. And she married, I think he's a preacher in the army, and they have moved around. But she has a very large family. And I know that she's totally changed her life. Like, I'm gonna let this dry and then I'm gonna put on my. But I just know what I see, and I'm making assumptions because you know how like you see people on Facebook that you went to high school with, and you make assumptions by a picture or something they post. But she is religious, and uh she talks about God a lot on her post, and I know that she had a son that had cancer and he passed away. Um, but she has a lot of kids. She when I look at her, it reminds me of the Duggars. Y'all know who the Duggars is? That's what she sort of reminds me of. Um, so she's totally changed her life, right? Like total where I've totally changed my life, she's totally changed her life. So I could not wait to go to lunch with her and like hear her testimony because I know her as a young girl and I know her parents and I knew her brother. As a matter of fact, in 8th grade, no, 7th grade. In 7th grade, I went to 7th grade prom with her brother. Um, I didn't go to prom in high school. That's another story. But I went to prom with her brother, and I remember me and her brother got a limo, and her brother got mixed up in some things, and he ended up passing away. And I know when I tell her about Bobby, my brother, she's been there. She understands the pain that I'm going through with my younger brother because she went through it with her brother. And I just felt like I need to go to lunch with her because I need to talk about some of this trauma that I went through as a child. And I've never heard her perspective of the way we were brought up. I've never heard the pain that she had from being left with babysitters almost every weekend, her parents partying. I don't even know her real dad. I knew her mom got remarried um, later in life. And I remember her mom got married on the top of an 18-wheeler because her husband was a truck driver. And they got married on the top of an 18-wheeler. And I remember it was on the news. I can remember that. But like I've never heard her side of the story. You know, it's funny how you can go through the same thing and you have totally different perspectives about the way you were brought up. Because, like, if my oldest brother, was sitting right here and he told you the story about our childhood, his story might be totally different from my story because his trauma is triggered by different things than my trauma. You know what I'm talking about? Like, if you ever sat down and talked to like your sister or brother and go, how do you feel about the way we were raised? And like your siblings like have a totally different perspective than you do. It's weird how you both went through having the same parents, raised the same way, and you guys are totally different, and you view things totally different about your childhood. Totally different. So she I was really just excited to sit down and talk to her about her perspective of the way we were brought up and how did she I know she wasn't raised religious. Like I know her mom didn't have her in church every time. Hang on. When I read the instructions on this slip stain, it does say you're supposed to peel this off, just to let you know. Okay, so I said to her on the phone, I said, I cannot wait to sit down and talk about our childhood and the trauma that we both have experienced and how we both have changed our lives and got to where we are today. And you know what she said to me? I got cold busted. She said, I can't remember word for word what she said because I think I was so dumbfounded when she said it that it kind of like took me for a shock for a minute. But she goes, Judy, she said, I used to think that I had the worst childhood. But as I've grown up and I've heard other people's testimonies, I realized that my childhood really wasn't that bad. God has seen me through it. And I thought in my head, what? Like, what? And it almost like, you know how like, it like, when someone says something like that, you take a step back and you're like, wait, what? What? And as she continued to talk, she was so positive. She was just like, my childhood really wasn't that bad compared to a lot of people. And God has gotten me to where I am today, and I've realized that it really wasn't that bad. And I was like, what the what? Like, what the what? And I got off the phone with her and I just sat there like this. What'd she say? Like, what did she just say? Is she serious right now? I know what she's been through. And it took me a minute to like soak it in. And then, you know me, I said, I need to break this down because I have no idea what she just said to me. Is she, and I, as I was sitting there, you know, it takes me a minute to break things down. Okay. It's not like I can break it down immediately. Usually, when I have to break something down, I have to get off by myself. Okay. I have to go away by myself, sit down by a tree, and just sit there and go, okay, she said this. What does that mean? Does that mean she doesn't want to talk about it? Like, what does that mean? Did she just shut me down like and says, no, I don't want to talk about my childhood? Maybe she's one of those people, because you know, some people have so much grief that they pretend like it's not there. So they just shut the door. I'm not talking about it. And then some people grieve and they need to talk about it. So I was thinking in my head, I know what she's been through. And I sat there and I was like, okay, let me break this down. What is she trying to tell me? And when I sat and started breaking things down, and I was trying to be honest, like I said, it was like I was so dumbfounded that I don't remember the exact words she said. But I was like, okay, what is she saying? Do I not bring this up when we go to lunch? Like, do I not tell her about my brother? Do I not talk about the trauma that we went through and how, like, how did she get over her childhood? Like, how did she get to where she is today? How did she end up with 15 kids? How did she get through her brother's death? How did she get through her child's death? Like, how did she get to where she is today? I've not seen this girl probably since high school. I don't know. It's been a minute, okay, since I've seen her. And I was thinking, like, what the heck? And as I sat there and I thought about what she said, I thought, this lady really trusts God, because I was thinking in my head, she's a lot stronger than I am. Here I am, I'm stuck on the past. I'm stuck on the trauma that I had as a child. Why is she not? Like, what? Like, how did she get to where she is today? Why am I still talking about what happened to me when I'm 6 years old? When I was 6 years old, my parents got a divorce, and oh my God, poor me. Like, how is she saying those things? And why am I not like that? Why am I stuck on the negative? What's the difference in her and I? And as I broke things down, I was like, I know what's different. She trusts. She trusts God. And do I not trust God? Like, why do I have such PTSD and can't get past it? Like, I have been through counseling. I have been through intense counseling since 2010. 15 years of consistent counsel. I have been with the same counselor for 15 years. We have talked about my childhood till I'm blue in the face. Like I have gone through the whole 2 years of DBT. I have been inpatient multiple times trying to deal with like I've been through psychotherapy. I've been through what's it called, biofeedback, where you put these glasses on and little lights come and they try to. I don't know what that works, but I have been through so much counseling. What is different in me and her? Why does she trust more than me? Why am I still stuck on what the crap happened to me when I was a kid? Yes. What the crap? So when she said that to me and I began to break it down, I was like, okay, I preach all the time gratitude. When you are grateful, you can't worry and be grateful at the same time. Scientists have studied this. This is not made up by Judy Sneed, but scientists have done psychiatrists have done enough study to know that when you are grateful and worry, you can't do it at the same time. Your mind takes over gratitude. When you have gratitude, worry goes away. So as I was sitting there breaking things down, I said, okay, all right, let's practice gratitude. And maybe I can get to where she is because I'm a train wreck. So I sat there. It doesn't peel off. Like I would think it'd peel off in one little chunk, but it doesn't. But it came with this little smudger thing. I don't know. So I'm going to wipe it off. So I begin to think about gratefulness. I can't talk and smudge at the same time. It's a pretty color. So I started when I smear it off, it's like I smudge it a little bit. I'm gonna have to watch some videos. So when I started thinking about gratefulness, and I was like, I'm gonna start by I miss my mom so much. Oh my gosh, I miss her so much. So I began to write down things that I was grateful for when it came to my mother. And the first thing that came to my mind was how my mother never left our side. Even though she was going through crap with the divorce from my father and the hurt, because she didn't want the divorce. My dad left her for someone else, and it wasn't my stepmom, it was someone else. But I think that my mother was a stay-at-home mom. So my mom like graduated high school but never went to college. So when my dad left her, she was left with 3 kids and bills and no job. And I remember when she got her first job and she ended up going back to school when we were kids because she wanted to get a degree. So I remember my grandparents used to come to our house like twice or 3 times a week. They drove an hour to our house to keep us while my mom went to work and did a full-time job, and she went to school at night to better herself, to learn how to pay for these 3 kids and all the bills that she has. My mom did that. And she ended up going into accounting, and my mother worked her way up. My mother worked a lot of hours to get her to where she was in her job, because she did not have a degree, and so it always was a crutch in her side because she was trying to figure out how to support 3 kids. She did it. She did it. My mother was the sponsor of my cheerleading team my whole life. My mother took the whole cheerleading squad to competition every single year. Every single year, we won first place and spirit 8 years in a row. My mom was a sponsor and she took us to competition and we won every single year. Okay? I remember when we would be practicing for our competition, because we had practice every single night, and mother used to put Vaseline on our teeth, okay? Because it helped us smile, because we had Vaseline on our teeth, because she was trying to teach us to smile for the judges and how important it was to make eye contact with the judges in order to show a personality, to make a contact with the judges. Mom taught us every bit of that. Mom taught us teamwork. Mom never missed one practice. She got up, she went to work, she worked all day long and came to my practice every single night. She was a very strong lady. When I went to high school, I got on the dance line. Well, back then, I don't know what they do today, but back then, in order to be on the dance line, you had 2 sequin costumes, like, for like when you were on the field. You had 2 sequin outfits. You had like 3 pep rally outfits. You had practice uniforms. We had boots, those white boots that you wore. We had gloves. We had a hairpiece. We had to wear certain makeup. And this was so expensive. I remember, I don't know how she paid for it. I don't. But somehow, some way, I lived with a single mom that did not have a job when my dad left, to my mom being successful, being in accounting. My mom was the manager over accounting. Okay. She was everybody's favorite manager. Everyone loved my mother. I don't know one person that hated my mother. My mother did not have one enemy. If you're on here and you know my mom, you know Jane Warniger. She was like everybody's second mom, and she was at everything. And listen, I'm not the only kid. She was the team mom for my brother's football team. She was the mom that loaded every one of the cheerleaders and football players into a Suburban, and she would take us rolling. Do y'all know what rolling is? We would go roll our friends, okay? Mom would go buy the toilet paper, and all of us kids would hop in the Suburban, and we would go roll our friends, and everybody thought it was funny. We did it all the time. Mom was the fun mom, okay? Uh, when I was in high school and I had to buy all those uniforms, I sit here and think, I remember, I mean, it was thousands of dollars for those uniforms. And I'm thinking in my head, I mean, yes, my dad paid child support, but I don't ever remember my father saying, I'll pay for it. I'll pay for your prom dress, or I'll pay for your uniforms. I don't remember that. He was pissed off because he had to pay child support. He paid child support and he did what he needed to do, right? But that was my dad. You know, um, I mean, my dad had another life with another family. So, like, it's not that we weren't important to my dad. It's just that my dad had bills to pay too, and he paid his child support, so he didn't go to jail, and he did his part. That's how he felt. So, um, Mom paid for every bit of my uniforms. And I think, I've been through a divorce. I've been, where I when it came to Vance going to college, guess what? It was me. I did it by myself. I had to pay $700 a month for my son's rent and utilities for 3 years all by myself. I was a single mom, and his dad did not pay one single dime for any of his college, any of his rent, any of anything. I did it by myself. And I feel like I was able to do that because I had a strong mom. I had a strong mom that would teach me that you can do what anything you set your mind to, Judy. Don't ever depend on someone else. They will let you down. Mom taught me every bit of that. Every single bit of that. And when I was sitting there thinking about everything that I was grateful for about my mom, suddenly the partying mom went away. Like mom goes partying and leaves us with babysitters every weekend. When I became grateful, all that escaped me. And I began to think about mom paid for every bit of my uniforms by herself. And I was thinking, as I was sitting there thinking about my dad leaving and my mom being a single mom with no job, can you imagine the fear she went through? I know what that fear is because I went through it. And I began to think about all the hard work and all the hours she put in to get us what we have. And suddenly the party and mom escaped me. And I was able to go, wow, I had a really strong mom. And it was like, as I was sitting there thinking about all this gratitude and how I was raised, I'm going to tell you this funny story. Mom worked a lot. Us kids were by ourselves a lot because mom had to work a lot of overtime. Okay. And I remember this one time, I think it's about time for me to get some new mascara, pull a tube out. Uh, One time, me and my brother decided we were going to paint the inside of the house. Okay. It's not like him and I had a job that we could go pick out a color and paint and surprise our mom. Okay. Just bear with me for just a minute. No, I don't know if we were in middle school or high school, but we decided that we were going to paint the living room and surprise our mom. So what we did was we went into the utility room and we got all the paint out. Okay, keep in mind, this is not the same color paint. Okay, and we didn't have enough money to buy paint. Okay, so what we did was we got like five, I don't know, there were like five empty cans, let's just say, in the utility room. Okay, and they had maybe like this much paint in them. Okay, we poured all the paint together and mixed it up. I don't remember what color it was, okay? But we poured all the paint together because let's just say we needed a gallon paint to paint the living room, okay? And me and my brother think we're doing a good job, right? So we pour all the paint together into the gallon and we stir it up. And we began to paint the living room for mom, okay? Can you It was the most hideous green. It was like puke green, okay? But we were so proud of ourselves because Greg and I were going to paint the living room for mom because she worked so many hours and we wanted a new color for the living room. So Greg and I began to paint the living room and it is puke green, okay? Well, we don't tell mom over the phone what's going on, okay? Because we wanted to surprise her. So my mother comes into the living room, and we were standing there so proud, mom's gonna walk in and she's gonna see that we painted the living room. So we were standing there, Greg and I were like this, and she walked into the living room and she's like, Holly! She didn't say that, but she thought it, and we were like, surprise! We painted the living room, and my mother did not say a word negative. She was like, y'all did this for me? We were like, we painted the whole living room for you. And she was like, where did you get the paint? And we were like, we went into the utility room and we got enough paint. We put it together. We stirred it up, and it was enough paint to do the whole living room, Mom. We did that just for you. And she sat there. This is my mom. I love it. It is absolutely beautiful. I cannot believe that y'all did this for me. That was what my mom said to us. Okay, if my kids would have done that, I would have flipped. I would have been the mom that went, oh, please tell me you didn't. You painted the living room, but my mom sat there, a proud mom, and did not say a word. And she left that living room puke green for the longest time because she didn't want to hurt our feelings, because she knew we did that for her. That's the kind of mom I had. Okay. I also remember for Mother's Day. Okay. When you have divorced parents and it's like Mother's Day or her birthday, when you don't have the same parent, I mean the parent that's living in the house, you don't have this dad that comes up and goes, let's go buy your mom something for her birthday. You're the kid that goes, oh, we ain't got no money for a birthday. That was us. My dad never said, let me take you shopping for your mother. You need to get her a Christmas present. We didn't have that. Okay. I remember one year. It was her birthday or Mother's Day or something. And I wanted to buy her a present. Okay. I don't have a job. Okay. I don't have any money. So I went in my piggy bank and I got enough money to buy her a present. And let me tell y'all what I bought her. Okay. Like if you have something that's crystal, and you have a mirror that goes up under it and you put the crystal on top of the mirror to like make it sparkle. Okay. I went and bought my mom a mirror. Okay. My mom didn't have any crystal. Okay. All I bought her was this flat mirror to put her trinket on. Okay. That's it. I remember this. I remember that morning, let's just say it was Mother's Day. I remember jumping in her bed and going, I bought you a Mother's Day present. And she was like, oh, you bought me a Mother's Day. I sure did. And she opened it up, and it was literally a little mirror that was about this big, and it was flat. And I remember her opening it, and she was like, listen, she acted like it was the best present she had ever seen in her entire life. Okay. She probably like, what the heck is this? What is this? But she pretended like it was like she was so excited. That's the mom I had. And as I was sitting there thinking about all of these situations that I was in, painting the living room puke green, and her leaving it like that for like months because she didn't want to hurt our feelings. And can you imagine the people that walked in our house and she was probably like, look, the walls are puke green because my kids painted the wall. She didn't care. She didn't care. She left it puke green because we did something for her. That's the mom I had. And as I sat there and I was thinking about everything, and I was thinking about this girl going, hey, my life could have been a lot worse. As a matter of fact, I realized listening to other people's testimonies, I realized that my childhood was actually pretty decent. That was a slap in the face for me. And when I began to think about all the funny things, the funny stories, the times that my mom was so involved in our life and us painting the living room, suddenly all that PTSD just totally escaped me. And I was able to go, this is what she's talking about. When I say to her, hey, I want to talk about our childhood, Judy, our childhood was not bad compared to other people. It was a slap in the face for me. But the moment I was able to break it down and find gratitude, I realized that my life really wasn't that bad. It's what you make of it. If you're like me and you're stuck on all the PTSD that mama did this, daddy did this happened to me, my all the negative, try to replace it with gratitude. Think about the good. Get in your mom's or your dad's shoes for just a minute. Imagine what my mom was faced with when my dad walked out the door. No job, 3 kids, holy crap. Suddenly, all that PTSD escaped me, and I was able to get where she was. And I was like, I don't need to talk about it. So when I go to lunch with her, I'm going to lunch with her at the end of the month. I can't wait to go to lunch with her and talk about all the good times that we had as kids. And it took her saying that for me to find my place in this world. And then you know what's so funny? She has no idea the impact she made in my life. She has no idea how she turned my attitude completely around. I'm so thankful. Because a lot of times we find ourselves concentrating on all the negative. Believe it or not, there is some good. Even in the midst of a storm, there's something that you're supposed to be learning. Okay, maybe you can't find anything good about your parents, let's just say, okay? You're like, "Oh no, they beat me. I was in a shelter, I was in a foster home my whole life. I have nothing good to say about my parents." Okay? Let's say that you're like that. If you're the best version of yourself today, believe it or not, in the midst of the storm, you can find gratitude because you probably are this really strong adult. And you're probably the best dad in the whole wide world or the best mom in the whole wide world. But you know why? Because you went through all of this as a child. You've been in and out of foster home your whole entire life. And you know the importance of a family. And, thinking about stopping the generation curses, I bet it starts with you. So being able to go, okay, my life was like this, but there's a lot that I'm grateful for. I am who I am today because of the storm that I walked. The generation curse stops with me. There's something to be grateful for. And you are where you are today because of the storm that you've been through. And I'm going to tell you, me in my life, I talk about these things in hopes to let you know that you're not alone. The PTSD that I have as a child is very painful. And there are times when I need to visit it to be reminded of all the good. And I hope today helps you. Sitting it out is let me think about this just for a minute. Sitting it out is there are times when you need to visit this painful place. There are times when you need to visit, okay? But staying in it, staying in that painful place of all the trauma that you had as a child, that is sitting it out. Finding gratitude, finding how you got to where you are today, why you are who you are today is because of all that you've been through. And you have the opportunity to make a difference in someone's life by going, but aren't you grateful that God has seen us through this? All she said was that. And it changed my life. It changed the way I thought. That is dancing. Instead of concentrating on all the negative, she was able to find power in the Word of God and going, Judy, but look at us today. Look at you today. You are where you are today because God has held your hand through every bit of this. That is dancing. So today you have choices. You can sit it out or you can dance, and I hope you dance. I will see y'all Wednesday. Bye.